academia's role in making India an AI hub. I'd like to introduce our host, Ms. Sridevi Devireddy. Um, she's a credible thought leader in the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem of India. A Schniving Research and Innovation Fellow from Oxford University, alumni of IIM Kozhikode, Osmania, and Kakatiya University, India. She's also the founding CEO of SR Innovation Exchange, SRIX, a technology business incubator under the aegis of DST, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India at Warangal. She has steered SRIX to international level in less than 2 years. She has received many awards, National Entrepreneurship Award in Ecosystem Builder category 2019, and she's also been named the Pride of Telangana, which she received an award for in 2019. Ms. Sridevi.
Thank you, Ganga, for the kind words. As per a recent global study by PwC India, the highest increase in use of AI during the pandemic has been witnessed in India. With the increasing adoption of AI in business, there's a need to ponder the scene as far as research, talent, and ecosystem is concerned. Today, we have an amazing panel of academicians, policymakers, and researchers with us to discuss the same. Let me introduce you to our eminent panel, Ms. Professor Sudeshna Sarkar, Head of AI Center of Excellence, IIT Kharagpur, who is also the Project Director of AI for ICPS Technology Innovation Hub on Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning for Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems. Professor Sarkar works in machine learning applications and in neural language processing. Our next panelist, welcome Professor Sarkar. Our next panelist, Dr. Buddha Chandrasekhar, Chief Coordinating Officer at AICTE. He's a technologist, senior IT systems architect, and entrepreneur. He architected 180 plus technology-based systems. That's quite a number, sir. He's leading NEET, National Educational Alliance for Technology, Internship Enterprise Portal, Artificial Intelligence Language Translation Project, and Indian Knowledge Systems Project for the Government of India. Coming to our other accomplished speakers, Dr. Ajay Garg. He is Senior Director at Ministry of Electronics and IT Government of India. Dr. Ajay Garg heads the International Cooperation Division, which has a mandate for promoting international trade and cooperation, driving IT and ITES sector, apart from managing the responsibilities of e-commerce and innovation and IPR. He is the brain behind the Mighty Startup Hub, a dynamic, singular, and collaborative platform for tech startup community towards meaningful synergies in the Indian startup ecosystem. Our last eminent panelist is Dr. Atul Negi, professor at School of Computer and Information Technology, University of Hyderabad. He teaches AI, problem solving, machine learning, and deep learning. He has been a research project investigator on numerous research projects funded by DIT, ISRO, related to AI and language technology. Good evening, all. Thank you for taking out so much time to be with us today. So firstly, I would request Dr. Sarkar to give us the opening remarks based on her experience.
I think the theme of the panel is academia's role in making India the AI hub. So as Dr. Sridevi has already mentioned, that AI is a technology, is a disruptive technology, which is accelerating breakthroughs in various domains of not only science and technology, but also society and academia. So if India has to, get into the forefront of AI, or near the forefront of AI, academia has a very important role to play, because what will drive the the AI capital of a nation is its power to innovate and do deep research. So academia can contribute to AI, AI progress of the nation in different ways. First of all, in all domains, typically, universities drive the frontiers of research. And I will elaborate on this further. Secondly, academia has a very important role in creating a talent base in order to drive the AI economy and to make, have a lot of talented people. We require a large number of people, and academia will play a very important role in creating these talent. Thirdly, academia, in order to succeed in this, must also challenge itself and promote the translation of science and technology achievements into commercial products by universities. And then there are various, apart from industry problems, AI has a very important role in solving social problems and important problems relating to sustainability and different important challenges facing mankind. And academia has a very important role there. Finally, academia has a very important role in promoting responsible use. But I also believe that in order to drive the AI innovation, the entire ecosystem has to work together, which means academia, industry, researchers, startup, government, all of them must work synergistically so that we can achieve the true potential in AI. So to elaborate on a few of these points, so it is very important to have to drive fundamental research in AI, as well as fundamental applied research, because it is not just the general AI algorithms, but also how they're applied to different important disciplines, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be combating climate change, providing water resources in agriculture or education, smart mobility. So these important use cases must be worked on by the academia, who can really drive the progress. But in this respect, as I think industry has a very important role to play. So AI is a very specific, in today's world, a large number of AI talent is concentrated into a few major industrial powers who possess a large amount of the data of certain important problems driving the economy, as well as who have the compute power and platform. So it is very important for to have a system where there is enough talent in academia who can nurture and create more talent and make AI talent and AI AI technologies available for use for the society and different industry. And AI capabilities are not just required for AI research, but AI is driving research in various domains of science, whether it is in astronomy or physics or sociology or economics, or the various technological frontiers such as manufacturing, cyber physical systems. AI technology has an important role to play. And the use of AI and the data is revolutionizing research in various domains. The second very important role of academia is to create a talent base. So the main force behind the AI innovation is to have deep talent and also a large amount of skilled manpower who are able to deploy AI and develop different products and innovate. And for this, it is important that AI education, AI knowledge, or of these emerging domains is available to various students, professionals, etc., across the spectrum for use in their own domains. As well, it is very important for the innovation capital of a country to raise that, to create high-end AI talent. and it's also important to talent reskilling of existing workforce. It is also very important to make sure of the employability and different aspects of the talent base. Now, as we all know, India has a unique position that it has a young demography. There are a lot of young people who are interested in technology. India has the largest IT manpower. So India is uniquely positioned because the workforce has the interest and the skills, especially the young people, to make contributions in this domain. So what is very important is to have an educational framework which will enable our students to work with an innovative mindset and a sort of education which does not limit their imagination but helps them to be able to innovate. And also, in order to make them ready to work with the industry, it is also very important to have academia and industry collaborate to develop use cases, to teach, to bring in the application aspect, to enrich the different courses and offerings and projects, which will make the students and the faculty aware of working on different cutting edge use cases of AI.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Now, I'll come back to you. Now, I would request Dr. Ajay Garg to say a few words on the theme, academia's role in making India the AI hub.
Thank you, Sridevi. It's a pleasure to be part of this very important summit and a hardware industry organization driving an AI summit. It means the importance is drive that we not only are controlling the soft skills, we are actually driving towards controlling the hard skills also. So it's very important and very glad to be part of this ISHA conference. And bringing the academia together is a lot more important. Now, let me say where if we want to be the AI superpower of the future, what are the few dots we need to capture upon? We need to capture upon the use of AI. We have to bring India into the frontiers of AI research. We should be the AI capital for human talent. And we should be driving the AI policy for the globe. These are the four things, if we do and do well, we actually are in the forefront of the AI ecosystem for the past. Now, so you have given me 5 minutes. I'll take 1 minute each on each of these. This can take ages for. So if you talk about AI use cases, now, as Professor Sarkar already said, that the AI research and AI algorithms have been long developed. Now, India, because of its large data resource, because of the prowess which the public digital platforms are bringing into bringing data as a, we need to create use cases, innovative use cases, where AI as a digital tool solves problems for all sectors of technology and becomes a socio-economic tool for upliftment. Now, who will develop these use cases? These use cases have to be developed by talented students from the academia, translating into entrepreneurs of the future. So driving an entrepreneurial ecosystem around the identifying problems and driving entrepreneurship around this is a very important role that academia plays. And the 51 tight centers which MIT is supporting, I think will drive towards that. Now, as far as fundamental research is concerned, there are many problems that needs to be solved, which looks theoretically impossible. Like studying the amount of elements on the sun looks impossible. Bringing solutions which can dynamically translate from one language to other. Miss Reddy talking in Telugu and me talking in English or Hindi, and all the audience might listen in any language that is they are interested in. This is the future we might be looking at. It's far away, but AI has the power to solve it. Who will solve it? It is the research in the academia which will actually run these moonshot projects and drive them. I know the failures might be big, but because the academia has the capacity to take failures and not the industry or even the government is not attuned to taking failures. So they have the best shot to solve problems of the future through dynamic research. As far as the talent is concerned, I understand they are doing great things, but the problem in India is that most of them are developing solutions which have been told to them. The products around AI or product development ecosystem is the missing link where the talent needs to be developed, and the academia has an important role. India has always been driven by policy which comes from the top. And that has been the problem why we have not been able to create attuned policies which actually suits our local needs. Academia, because of its links to the roots, that is students, and the bigger community, can actually drive a policy making where the policy is highly technical in nature rather than legal or pure economics. So it has to be, academia has to also play a very important role in policy making. So these are the 4 pillars, I think, if we actually solve them right and have an active participation of academia, we have a great future in the AI domain. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll come back to you with my questions on your statements. Now, I would request Dr. Buddha Chandrasekhar of AICTE to share his views.
Good evening, all. Thank you for inviting me for AESA AI Summit. As we see, artificial intelligence is bringing a dramatic shift in the world of technology. And as the fastest growing economy with the world's second largest population, India has a big stake in the AI revolution. Industries estimated that 56 million AI professionals by 2025. So what it really means is we as a Ministry of Education, we need to prepare, upskill and skill our students and faculty for it. And since COVID, there is as you all know, there's a tremendous change in education, teaching and methodologies. And slowly, from last few years, everyone is pushing towards a digital education, but due to COVID pandemic, the students was pushed towards working on a remote method and utilizing this digital infrastructure. And the institutes also no option than relying on technology than ever before. I think that's where the artificial intelligence started playing a major role, because now we even slowly started utilizing artificial intelligence based facial recognition and for attendance, etc. And the skilling of students and faculty in artificial intelligence is very, very important for our future generations. So one of the company which got selected in NEET called GUVI, it's a IIT Madras incubated startup. So we had a collaboration with them, and we are planning to upskill 10 lakh Indians in for 1 day free workshop on artificial intelligence on this 24th of April. And we are aiming to set up a world record. The thought process here is we want to give that taste, to our students and faculty. So we have decided from at the age of 9 to 80 years, everyone can come and they can try out on learning artificial intelligence. At least they can learn what it means, and how they can do and how they can use 4th generation languages, so that without coding also how they can create smaller systems using artificial intelligence, and they will taste what is Python. And this is what we are trying from skilling and upskilling side. But within the ministry itself, now we are no more only a policy making ministry, we are a technologically driven ministry. So we are utilizing artificial intelligence within our projects itself. Example, we created one project where we translate the documents from English to 8 vernacular languages. We have used the deep learning, TensorFlow, and advanced artificial intelligence technologies in that project. And we have an internship project where we utilize the deep learning and created lots of meaningful decisions and data out of it. And another project called NEAT project. So we are extensively using artificial intelligence for our internal projects itself, so that we can showcase that to the students as well as the universities and institutes. So that's but that's one of the part, because I strongly believe we need to upgrade our infrastructure also, so that we can do a better research, because the research side, I think we are really lagging on the research side. So we need to invest a lot on the research, and we need to take things forward. In order to do that, we started recently something called Yukti. So basically in Yukti, we help students, faculty, as well as institutes to come up with the startups, mainly on the technological side, like artificial intelligence, etc. And basically they can take up any domain: education, health, financial services, or any other field they're interested in. And we are trying to help them, and we are trying to give them a entrepreneurial touch, because the idea needs to be translated from a thought process to a reality. That's where we are helping them. And that entire Yukti platform was developed using an artificial intelligence on the background. So we are not only trying to upskill and skill the students and faculty, we ourselves are upgraded ourselves, and we are utilizing artificial intelligence, because we understand that's a future. And we are slowly trying to take the same thing towards every institute in the country. And another thing what I see is the hardware. I mean, the infrastructure side, I think we still needs to work a lot, because I see IITs and NITs, they have a better research opportunities, and they are working on a research side. But on the other side, if you take any other institutes where I see they are lagging, I think we need to concentrate on that and try to take it forward. Maybe if you have any further questions, I will try to answer those questions at the time of Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Buddha. Now I would request Dr. Atul Negi to share his thoughts on the topic.
Thank you. Very warm welcome and good evening to everyone in this panel. I'm really tremendously grateful for this opportunity. Speaking at the end, I suppose, having heard from everyone, so I can just maybe address some of the views. One very big concern I have, which is coming from the University of Hyderabad, which is a highly ranked NIRF university, and also it is a part of the university system. We must have a bit more of diversity when we make policies, and we must not just think of that there is some number of I's and followed by a T. Is that the only kind of institutes which we have in our country which can help in deliver with AI? I mean, that's a serious question to ask, okay? Because the equality of opportunity and such things will help us in developing a larger and broad base of students and faculty who are empowered to be able to deliver on the question which is there, okay? And I'm of course grateful to the AICTE and the MEITI fundings which my university has received. And I myself have benefited from the MEITI projects on language technology, and also I've been a co-developer of the Telugu OCR and Telugu language products which we have. So we have been working on AI, and the University of Hyderabad has an M.Tech in AI from the days of the late 80s. Okay, so please process that. Okay, and I have been myself been teaching this M.Tech in AI from almost 3 decades. Okay, and through those 3 decades, it's been a very like a roller coaster ride. We been through one summer of AI, and then some winters, and now there is again a hot summer with the blaze of the deep learning. So and of course now it's really very interesting because for students and for faculty and all, what we have been struggling for a long time, struggling with pattern recognition, the abstractions of pattern recognition. Now everybody wants to get into it. That's very interesting. It's excellent feeling for me, having been in this field. Okay. Well, what is it that we need to do now to broad base our talents? Now, see, talent. Let us be frank and say that talent is everywhere, and there are a number of companies which actually go to the colleges. Of course, it takes them more time, but they go to the AICT colleges and then they hunt out the nuggets, gold nuggets, which are found out there. Okay, I think those companies which bring out those nuggets are really doing the great service to our country and to the field as such. So similarly, I think we must understand and appreciate that these nuggets would be everywhere, and we should try to give them a chance. Okay, so basically, I would suggest with a metaphor that we must have a AI playground. Okay, and the eminent industries and the government agencies, if they provide the playground. Okay, what do I mean by playground? It means like, see, we need for AI, AI, of course, now being highly data centric. So the terabytes of data is there, but we need processing, and we need that the compute powers that is available with the GPUs. And as those of you who are trying to get a GPU device for themselves, that the prices of the personal level of the GPUs is going through the roof because of the miners. Okay, so can we come up with more innovative approaches by which GPU time is sort of scheduled, and the pool of GPU and that kind of things should be made available at maybe at a national level or at an institute level, and such kind of things should be there. Okay, that is I feel going to go to a big extent to provide this kind of AI playground for our students and our faculty and all. Okay, someone might say, okay, Google Colab is there, but throughout the pandemic with my students, we have struggled through Google Colab because that just disconnects after some amount of time. And when you want to actually get to something which is really going to be at the edge, it doesn't cut it. Okay, so that is what has been a revelation for this pandemic time. Now, what I would like to say is that where universities are at a very good place is that at universities we have a diversity. So there is at my university, there is a unit which is called as comparative linguistics. All right, now comparative linguistics is a unique thing which is going to help towards the translation projects which Dr. Chandrasekhar has mentioned. And in fact, we have a team here who has been working again from the late 90s with Professor Sangal first, and then there is now again a MEITI project which is on the translation. Okay, so these kind of things are also there. And another important thing is that to surpass the language barriers which we have in our country, the problem is very acute in terms of knowledge of English. So then these translation tools will really broaden and flatten the base and get our students into that thing. Okay, so another viewpoint which I have is that what is happening is that there is always a push for our publication, and the publication people who control our destiny are sitting all in the West. Okay, can we not think of and have more merit for India-based projects and the problems which we actually face, and give more credit to those problems? All right, so it shouldn't be that there is a panel which is totally looking for, oh, did you publish in the transactions or not? Okay, but that is possible only if you have those data sets which are fashionable for the publishing in the transactions. and then someone will come across, will say that, oh, okay, you haven't addressed this, so I don't think so you're significant. Okay, I think this kind of approach must be totally reversed, and we must look at India-centric problems and approaches. So what are our domains? Say, for example, can we customize and bring up agriculture domain data, and we can sort of focus on that, how agricultural domain data, which is there at various stages of agriculture. So maybe say, like, like you have a AI-based combine harvester, all right, which is, say, for in our country, because we have a boom and bust cycle of crops. Say, like, for example, tomatoes. Okay, tomatoes is a highly perishable crop, and do we have AI to be able to address those kind of things? And I think at academia, if you are giving students these opportunities and the data sets, and the ability to the capacity to play around. So of course, the fantastic things which is being done by the Atal FDP, where I given a number of talks, is doing a great bit for these kind of things. Okay, that's really tremendous. Another thing which because I strongly believe in this, that technical societies like IEEE are also doing their bit. They sponsor humanitarian projects. Okay, I have been the chair for the IEEE Hyderabad section, so I know a bit about that. And no, they also are quite egalitarian, and they have a very good bit of diversity, and they do have a connect with the international agencies, by which our Indian solutions can also be scaled up to the international level. Okay, so I think these are some of the aspects which are food for thought. And as it's a panel, maybe I can stop speaking here and give the round back to Madam Sridevi for us to continue this discussion.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would request Ajay ji, as one of our panelists was also emphasizing, Dr. Sudeshna was emphasizing, what model of partnership do you think government, academia, and industry should have to take AI forward, going forward? What model do you think will work in India? Maybe some other model worked in the West. I'm not sure that will work here, but I would like to prick your brain on this.
So thank you.
Dr. Sudeshna, Ajay ji, Ajay Garg ji, after that, the same question I'll ask you as well. You can add something else as well, if it's okay with you.
Yes.
So if you take, for example, where the academia, government, and industry. So let's understand that for a path-breaking research domain, which AI happens to be, a relationship between an academia and industry is paramount for taking this success. Now, our traditional models by which the academic research flows into industry has failed to deliver the desired results. There has been little translation, whereas the academia wants quality, the industry wants speed. And so both of them, there is a missing link in this. So the government's role should be limited to creating a policy framework to interconnect them. Now, what is the policy framework to interconnect them? I thoroughly believe that an academia industry partnership in traditional technology transfer domains has failed tremendously, and it has to be the academia who has to be the entrepreneur themselves to take this research to the market. The Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs Scheme of the Government of India, or MITI, as you call, has been truly built on this very aspect, that a faculty coming out with a path-breaking research has to be an entrepreneur for that path-breaking research to take it. And has been a lot of success stories around this. And I'm happy that this is one model that works. The second important thing is where the industry academia relationship is bridged by the government. is an example called the Mighty Startup Hub or the Atal Innovation Missions and Startup India program, where you bring the whole ecosystem together, the large tech, the young tech, and the academia and the mentors. If you bring them all together, academia needs state-of-art research facilities in today's day. They need the testing and accreditation systems, which academia has, the industry is devoid of it, or have to pay a very heavy sum for it. And academia is not able to use it at the 100% capacity. So if the Mighty Startup Hub, the whole purpose is to connect these together. So there the government plays a facilitator role. There the government plays that it creates an environment where it connects. But the moment it starts controlling the policy domain of an academia industry relationship, then it messes up. And I hope that the government doesn't do that. Thank you.
Dr. Sudeshna, a follow-on question on this. Can you help us understand a commercialization that has happened in IIT Kharagpur, wherein you were in charge? Any example can you give us where the industry, academia, and if possible, the government also had a role in it?
Thank you. I do not have a specific use case because I have not been involved, but technology handovers have been there. So it has been, as Dr. Garg has mentioned, so it is possible that the technology which is delivered in the academia, that can be transferred to industry through a startup or through some payment. So that model has been there. However, the other type of model which is quite rampant in other countries like USA, where even large tech, they routinely work with academia. So that model, I think, is not very prominent in India. And we have to seek what is it that prevents them from coming together. What are the policies of academic institutes? What are the differences in approaches? So as Dr. Garg rightly mentioned, industry looks for agility and speed, whereas academia has to work within its time frame, and often they don't match. So there has to be better understanding of each other's strong and weak points. And based on that, one has to take the advantage of the system. There are other, problems with IP policy and other things where industry-funded research, while there have been instances where MeitY or other government institutes, they have certain projects which bring academia and industry together. But industry on their own, working on their core technology, is something which is, less in India. And this is where there is a lot of scope, because often, there are certain use cases where the academicians themselves can develop the use cases and bring out the technology. Whereas there are certain sectors where those use cases are not available to academia. So the exact use cases, the exact nature of the work, the complexities, that type of data and use cases, if they are made available to academia, there will be further scope of innovation, whether by the faculty, the students, or the researchers. So I feel that more has to be done in that front, because technology transfer, while it is happening, the numbers are not very large. So these are my thoughts.
Dr. Buddha, you are planning to say something?
Recently, we as a AICT, we collaborated and we spoke with, we had MOUs with a couple of government organizations as well as private organizations. And we connected the institutes with the industries. And the students started working as an interns for the government as well as private entities. Example, for 1 lakh internship opportunities on oil and gas. And we connected national highway authorities with our students. And now recently, 2 days back, we connected Jal Jeevan, scheme. So where we are going to preserve the water. It's one of the favorite scheme of Honorable Prime Minister. So he wants to provide the drinking water facility to each and every household. So now we had a tie-up with the Urban Development Ministry, and we are connecting all our institutes who is interested, the faculty as well as students who is interested to be part of it. We are connecting them. So now see, the paradigm shift is already started, but maybe I completely agree it is in a bit maybe smaller scale. And now we are doing this with the Indian Railways. So we have created an amazing web application, which is mobile as well as web application, where the student can work for Indian Railways in all across, the zones they have in a pan-India basis. So that's another module which we have created, and we are trying to, get the academic one side and the industries on the other side, and together working together, in one place. I think we are working on that. And if you have any such models, because the new education policies is agile in nature. I mean, we are open now. We are no more Babu Giris. I mean, we are not Babus. Now we are completely open for new ideas. And we are taking things forward, ourselves. And even recently, we had an interaction with a London-based company who is working on completely remodeling the aircrafts. And we have connected them with our college students, and now they are learning, and now they become an interns for that company, and they are learning how to remodify the aircrafts. I think the world is changing, and from the Ministry of Education side, we are also taking some initiatives to do that. But having said that, these initiatives, I think we need to do much in a larger scale. I think then only we can, we will succeed because, we have 35 crore students. I think, we need to do this in a larger scale. That's what, thought I would like to share.
Yeah. Dr. Atul, I would like to ask you about the research you're doing, or the research you're part of in AI. Can you share some thoughts, some of your use cases?
Yeah, thank you. So amongst the interesting use cases which we had was that personally myself, I was working on machine learning, and I had a student who was intensely interested into operating systems. So while I was interested into machine learning and my student was interested in operating systems, then the two of us, when we worked together, we came up with a AI-based scheduler for Linux. And this is not now, this is in around 2004 or 2005 time framework, where people weren't really so keen on AI, and there was a lot of skepticism that would it work or things like that. But I have consistently been working on applying AI and putting them into systems. Okay, so more recently, reinforcement learning based schedulers for Hadoop is the thing in which one of my students, PhD students, had worked. Okay, so I would say that if you want to pin down my theme is that putting AI into computer systems. Okay, so and I also have some kind of a survey paper which is on that. Out of my own 60 plus publications, and there you can see that we put hidden Markov models into the state determination of whether a system is compromised or not. Okay, so that was also one of the works, and that masquerade detection and such things. Okay, that is again relevant to the computer systems, and a lot of my work is related to the face recognition and different imaging components like principal components. And I feel there is a lot which we can use from those things, which are now they are the building blocks by which present day AI applications would be built up. And of course, yes, we can continue to do the work which academia is very strong on, that we need to nurture and build up the talent and train them with their full strength. And I'm sure the strength of institutions of University of Hyderabad and Professor Sudeshna's IIT Kharagpur, our strength is that we do stand world over for the quality of our training. Okay, so while there are other aspects of that, whether or how our research is going to get productized, all right. So then once you come to this, then as Dr. Garg has pointed out that there are three entities on into this activity. One is, let us call it as whichever entity, whether it is DST, whether it is MeitY, or whether it is AICTE, it is, let us say, bracketed as government. Second entity which is there, which is the those people who are actually working in the domain, say some faculty and their students who are into that small specific part of that technical aspect. Okay. And third entity is the industry. Okay. Now let me explain a very practical problem. When I coach a student who is doing an internship in an industry, I have coached the student, but as the company with whom he is working or she is working is the industry. So all the IPR is then attributed to the industry. What is there for me then? What is there for the government then? All right. So we need to have some model by which these kind of things should be addressed, so that now there should be a kind of a honest and equity based sharing of these kinds of intellectual inputs. Okay. So very honestly, that these kind of honestly equality in the sharing of the IPR and such kind of things will give a lot of encouragement for the fertile imagination of the faculty who guide such projects and things like that. So that will really develop. Okay. One last thing which I have is that, of course, it may interest Dr. Chandrasekhar intensely, is that AI and learning analytics. At our University of Hyderabad, in my school specifically, within 15 days of the pandemic closing our institutions, etc., we shifted over to Moodle training, and there, all our student data and other such kind of things, written assignments and everything is getting into that. Huge amount of data is accumulated there. Okay. Is there a way in which we can formulate projects and see that how customized learning and the pinpointing of the loopholes which certain students have in their learning can be brought out, and through that the quality of training which they may get would be improved. Okay, I think so that will also add to all our problems or issues. I mean, it will help to solve some of the problems and issues which we are having here, to build up a strong talent base for AI, and then India becoming an AI hub. Okay, okay, maybe right now that's all from my side.
Yeah, we just have 5 minutes to go. In this 5 minutes, I would like to ask one question with Dr. Buddha and one question with Sudeshna ji. Dr. Buddha, you were telling about AI program which AICTE is facilitating, the mass scale program. Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, I mean, the thought process, as Atulji said, I think, now we need to work aggressively and collectively. I think, we need both, which I see sometimes we are aggressive, but we are not collective. Sometimes we are collective, but we are not aggressive. I think we need to do both, work together. And I really appreciate Atulji. Please share the data sets. We are happy because I as you know, I run the NEET, is another initiative. So we are already doing it. Now we created a timeline for students, like how Facebook is doing. See, what is interest, why people are interested in Facebook? Because, you just go up and down, you will see, it is like, the timeline, right? So they are seeing their future, they're seeing their current, they're seeing their past, and who all are associated, when they're associated, at what time, for what, for why, on what location. I think we are also creating a similar kind of artificial intelligence system on the background to understand the learning capabilities of a student. Because every student, we have identified, every student is unique in nature. So we need to create a personalized and customized artificial intelligent learning management system for the student. So that's where we are working, and we are creating data sets And we are trying to learn. I mean, as you know, it takes years, to collect the data and feed that, and and make our engine learn all this and start implementing this. So we are working on all this, sir, and I'm interested to have a collaboration. And at the same time, we are working very fast. And not only on the customization and personalization, even we are going on the language also. So we are giving a touch of a local language, because I strongly feel your mother tongue is the language where you can learn anything in the world, in a much faster session. Because I'm from Andhra, if you teach me in Telugu, I can understand it in a super fast way than any other language. Even though I may speak in all other language 4 or 5, but that's the way things work, right? So we are trying to create this tool completely on a localized way, so that it has that local flavor to it. So even we have created one portal called internship portal, and there a lot of people said it's looking beautiful, but one word it really attracts. It says, our portal is as beautiful as pani puri. So everyone forgot the technology. They said, oh my God, I think pani puri is the one. I think we need to correlate. So we started creating this application in a user-friendly way, in a much faster way, and it learns from the student, and it adopts, and it tries to customize itself or herself, so that it helps the student. And we are trying to create interactive material, because I strongly believe that seeing is believing. Now I see you, so it has my imprint, in my mind, right? Now I know who is Atulji and who is Shudanshidi Srideviji. So that imprint is very important. So now we are slowly trying to move everything towards an interactive based learning. So what I mean by interactive based learning is, let's say a video when we are running, so it automatically pops up a question, and it will ask a relevant question. And if you answer it, then it's fine. If you're not answering it to a right way, then it will give you additional information in an interactive way, so that it can create an interlinkage in your brain. So basically wiring, like a similarly how our brain has a wiring system. So we are also creating a similar kind of a pattern, so that our student can become a super student. And then they can, once they know what to do and how to do, once they get empowerment of the right and left brain, I think, no one can stop them. I mean, that's where we are working on a couple of tools. And
Thank you, Dr. Buddha.
The tools, yeah.
In the paucity of time, I would like to, Dr. Sudeshna, I have just one question based on your vast experience in education. I would like to understand your thoughts on how can we make India AI capital for human talent? What do you think we should do at a war foot?
I think there are very good policies of the government as laid down by National Education Policy, but not so much direction on implementation. I see that few universities and institutions, they have started programs specific to AI, but others maybe we will follow. The main disadvantage that we have today is the paucity of quality faculty for AI. This is not just in India, all over the world, because the truly top-notch faculty is migrated, many of them, to a top few companies. So India, this is very much there. But the advantage is that we have our young students who are very enthusiastic about AI. And today, thanks to the digital platform and the huge amount of materials, it is much easier to scale up learning. So I think there are a few things. One is we must have good capacity in higher education in AI, including top-notch PhDs, etc. And I think there, apart from good quality faculty, we require collaborations with international and national, between international and national partners, as well as with industry. So this is number one. Number two is to create a large number of people at the undergraduate and postgraduate level who can join different companies, industry, government, and work on AI applications. Thirdly, I think that people, students, whatever discipline they are from, whether they are from economics or humanities or physics or chemistry, I think in every domain, research is increasingly, there is a lot of research which is happening through the use of AI by automating the publication search, by by mining through the data. A lot of research is happening. So it is very important to have the capabilities of these emerging technologies available for all. So there must be this three-pronged strategy. One is AI for everyone. So make everyone aware and be able to use the basic tenets of AI. Secondly, develop a good quality manpower who are able to work in industry and in AI, developing AI products. Third is, that is very important, create those people who can make higher leaps in AI, who can create their own companies. And I think the first two we should be able to do. The third is where we have to give a lot of focus. So this is my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Sudeshna. Ajay ji, the last question is for you, and we will summarize after that. After listening to all of us, all the empowered panelists, how can academia help in policy aspect of AI? How can all of us be part of a policy which can make India a AI capital for human talent, which can make India drive policy for the globe, which is your vision? So how can academia help you in this? Your take.
Understand where India is different from rest of the world. India is different from the rest of the world is that we believe in an ecosystem which is inclusive. We think that the power of technology should impact the last man on the road. And that's where a very important policy domain, if you're connected with the grassroots, and unluckily or for whatever reason, many people sitting in Delhi might not be connected with the grassroots. So either they take their input from the legislative process or from the academic process. So both have to provide their inputs for the right set of policy making. At the same time, let's understand, if AI has the power to change the way the problems are solved, and if AI has the power to solve any and every problem, it can be as destructive as the nuclear technologies were there in the early 20th century. And that's where a right balance between the use of AI has to be formulated. If in the 90s and 20s, a policy would have been created or the ethical use of nuclear technologies would have been created, I believe Hiroshima and Nagasaki would not have ever happened. And the ethical use of AI has to be driven by the sensitive faculties and academia to create a holistic policy framework to create ethical use of AI and to stop the detrimental use of AI, which it has the capability to do. And I think is a key element and a key sensitive issue which the academia has to drive because of its intellectual prowess. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was an amazing panel. A lot of key points, key takeaways we all have today. Industry, academia, and government have to work hand in hand instead of working in silos to create better impact of AI on everyday life is one key takeaway. And as Sir was telling, AI capital, we should become an AI capital for human talent. Given our demographic dividend advantage, I don't think the day is far when we will be doing that. And policy, hopefully we'll come up with good policies which will be applicable to the rest of the world as well. And a lot of good initiatives are happening by government as well as academia. Let's hope for the best. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the time, and your mementos will reach you home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ganga, now over to you, Mr. Gangadhar.
Thank you, Ms. Sridevi. Just to sum it up, I think now we would just like to go to the closing of the conference.